Perfect. You can move the stack of paper up or down, so you can free up that last board there too. Perfect. But doors are closed. That does mean class is now officially in session. So I would like to welcome you guys on into the Animation Academy. My name is Sandra. I'm going to be the Disney artist here to teach you guys how to draw sadness for this class. Hopefully we're all pretty big fans of Inside Out. When you guys all came in, you also met Sam at the top of the stairs. Now Sam's an amazing artist. She's here to help you guys out. So if you break a pencil, you need anything at all, or use your hand nice and high, she'll swing over to help you. Sam's also going to show you guys right now your one and only exit, so give her your attention. She's pushing open that last door there, and if you give it a hard push like Sam's demonstrating, that door leads you back out into the courtyard. Alright, important stuff out of the way. Anybody here new to the Animation Academy, never taken a class with us before? Oh, like that majority of you guys. I love that. Well, welcome into all my new students here. Welcome to your first ever class, and welcome back to all my returning alumni too. Good to have you guys back. But for my new students, you might want to take a look at the ends of your pencils, because you're missing something. What are you missing? Erasers, yeah. And that's on purpose. Now in these classes here, we teach you how to draw in a rough, sketchy manner. So that means we're kind of putting you in the place of the Disney artists when they were creating these characters. We're drawing quickly, we're just sketching, we're kind of not really worried about perfecting our lines. So that being said, when we draw, you want to try and keep your drawing very light, so that way we can build our drawing step by step, and when we really like our lines, we'll go back and darken them in. So you guys ready to draw? Fabulous. Let's get started. Now for sadness, we really start with a circle right in the center of your page. You can go however large you'd like, as long as you save some space above for her hair and below for her outfit. I'm going to start with a circle about the size of a baseball or an orange, but again, you can go larger or smaller, really whatever you feel like fits. If you use the rotation of your shoulder as well, your shoulder kind of naturally does that circular motion if it rotates in its socket, so always try to use it when you're drawing. So we've got our circles here. I've got like 20, so that way I have a lot to choose from. I'm going to go in and add some guidelines. A vertical line right down the middle of my circle, so I'll cut it in half. And I'm also going to cut it in half from left to right as well. So again, we're going to just stretch across a horizontal line right in the middle. Once we've got our two guidelines here in place, we also want to add in a little bit of that scarf that she wears. Now she wears like something that looks like a turtleneck that's like really bunched up, or maybe even like an infinity scarf. So that's what we want to add in here right at the very base of her chin. She looks very, very bundled up. So that's what we're trying to recreate here in our drawing. I've cut off the very, very bottom of my circle with a letter U curve really. And then on either side of my circle, slightly above that letter U curve, I'm going to drop down some letter C's. These first set of letter C's are going to be kind of smaller. They're not going to go too far below my circle. But my second set of letter C's are going to be just a little bit longer here, going much farther below my circle. So now she really looks like she's like pretty tucked in, very, very cozy. I'll connect those second set of letter C's together with a big letter U, and this is the little outfit that she wears. Just so she doesn't look like a floating head here, we like to add in just a little bit of what the character's wearing. Now we've got her little like scarf here, or her like turtleneck on. I want to add some more texture here to the drawing, just so that way it looks like it's sitting in 3D space. So I'm going to go in here right underneath my big letter U, and I'm going to add a couple more letter C's here, making it feel like the fabric is kind of rounding, or like it's made of like a knit. So I'm going to go in here adding a couple letter C's, facing my vertical guideline. So if you switch sides, you still want to make sure your letter C's are always going to face your vertical guideline here. So we've got a few letter C's here throughout the design. This is actually the very first thing in my drawing, but I do want to go back over and lock into place. Now when we lock in our lines here, we're really just going to pick out our favorite ones and we go back over them to really make sure they're nice and bold and they stand out. Now this makes them permanent though, so make sure you're picking out your favorite lines. If you don't quite have favorites though, that's okay too. You can keep using those messy and sketchy lines to help you find better lines, and we'll just go back later and lock those in. I'm locking in just her scarf here, and then we can move on up to adding in her hair as well, so we have a little bit more of a completed silhouette for Sadness. Now she's got a little bit of a side part, so I'm actually going to start more on the right hand side of the top of my circle, and I'm going to add this very short letter C. With that letter C here in place, I'll follow the curvature of my original circle just a little bit higher up and add another big rainbow curve here for the top of her hair. As her hair descends here on the left-hand side, I'm actually going to use this horizontal guideline to help me out in just a second. That's where I'm going to start adding some separations of her hair texture here. And one thing about animation is hair is definitely a little bit of a challenge when it comes to drawing and animating. So one thing that the animation team does is they try to keep hair as sections, so that way they're not animating every single hair. So I've just added about 2 shark fin shapes or blades of grass, and here you go. Kind of makes it feel like she's got a lot of volume of hair, but not a lot of singular pieces of hair. So just like we did on the left, we're going to do the same thing here on the right, but instead of adding shark fin shapes, I'm really just going to add maybe just one blade of grass here as I get closer to my horizontal guideline, and the rest of her hair is going to just add or sit at a little diagonal here. So it's just one big chunk of hair. So you've got the outside portion here of her hair, of her silhouette. And then I also want to add in her bangs here, so we can also lock in the very top here of her head shape. So staying pretty close to my circle, I'm going to go on the inside this time and add another big rainbow curve. Now she does have bangs that sit slightly in front of her face, but not covering her eyes or anything. So I'm going to go in here pretty close still to the side of my circle, but you can see I just pulled a little bit inside of her head shape. This line here, I'm going to just darken it up so you can see it a little bit more, but I'm going to add a few more strands of hair, a few shark fin shapes or blades of grass to just kind of make it look like she's got a lot here. And then once you've got the hair to your liking, you can take your time and lock that into place. I'm going to lock in her bangs here as well as her hairline. And she does have one last shark fin shape here on the right. So I'm just going to add that in here and then lock in that side of her hair as well. When you're done locking in her hair, you're also welcome to lock in whatever's left over of her chin here. So whatever's left over of the bottom of our circle. Now, Sadness here, as well as all of the other characters in this film, they're actually animated in a very interesting way. Now, their character design has this fuzzy look to it. It's technically that they're made up of particle matter. So you can think of it as kinetic sand. Now, that kinetic sand look was really supposed to be specifically for Joy, not for any of the other characters. Kind of just she's such a bundle of joy, she's such a ball of joy that she just has this fuzzy feeling to her. And so that's the original idea for that character specifically. However, that type of texturing actually cost Pixar a lot of money, and so they were like, you know what, maybe we'll just get rid of that entirely. Now they actually took the the design of Joy, and they had the executives over at Pixar take a look at it. They let them know hey, this was an idea that we had, but it's kind of expensive, so we're thinking of getting rid of it. The executives loved the way Joy looked, and they actually wanted all of the characters to kind of share that same fuzzy texture, that fuzzy feeling. And so even though it was going to cost them a lot more money and really push the budget, they were like, that's okay. We really love the way that it makes these characters look. It's a very unique style. And so that's really the story behind all of the characters sharing in that same fuzzy look. So we've got that whole shape here of the outside of Sadness locked in. Let's go ahead and hop into her facial features here to really wake her up. Now for Sadness, her eyes here sit pretty much almost touching her nose. So we'll sketch in her nose first, so that way we can have an idea of where her eyes sit. Now her nose sits right underneath our horizontal guideline here, right in the center of her face. So I'm going to add this teeny tiny little rainbow curve. With that rainbow for her nose here in place, we can also sketch out her eyes now. Now her eyes are nice big circles. I would say they take up about half of this space. So I'm going to go in here pretty close to her nose and sketch out some nice big circles here, really making sure she looks nice and wide awake. Now right now with just her eyes in place, Sadness definitely is going to look like she's seen some things. That is fair. She definitely has. But to really wake her up, to add in those pupils, that'll really help her look a little bit more alive. Now, your Sadness can definitely look different than mine. You could add hearts or stars in her eyes. Maybe you want to add little clouds or raindrops. All of that is really up to you. Maybe you want to draw her crying, because it's kind of like a big thing that she does, which, like, I get it. I feel that. Even though she is technically the embodiment of she is sadness, the feeling. She does sometimes feel other emotions as well, so you're definitely welcome to change what you see inside of her eyes. Now I'm going to just draw regular circles, and I'm going to have her looking out at you guys, so kind of placing them in the inner corners here. But again, you can have her looking at your neighbor, maybe she's thinking. There's so many fun ways to make this character look more your own. Do make sure though you shade in her pupil no matter what you decide on adding in there or which direction she's looking, because the eyes are really the most important part of your character. This is where you build your connection with them, so very, very important that they're nice and dark. So her eyes are sketched in. I'll add in her eyebrows right above as well, so that way it can really help push her emotion here. And I like to give her these little crescent moon eyebrows here, these little letter U curves for eyebrows. It just kind of adds a little bit more worry here to her face. With those eyebrows in place, I also want to sketch out her glasses, which are pretty big circles as well. So I'm going to use the inside corners here of her eyes as a guide, and then I'll really use my shoulder here, sketching up some pretty big circles. And it's totally fine if her glasses sit in front of her hair. You know, glasses do that sometimes. So I'm gonna go in here, really sketch up some big circles and really fill that space here on both sides. Once you've got the glasses in place though, you're welcome to lock them in really and make them nice and bold. And the bridge that'll connect them will just be a horizontal line, right about where her pupils line up. So you're welcome to add that in if you're already there as well. Now, the very first film was directed by a gentleman named Pete Docter, and Pete Docter really created this whole story because he had an 11-year-old daughter who was growing up. His daughter was starting to change though. As she aged, she became less outgoing, a little bit more reserved, and he just really wanted to know what was going on inside of her head. And so that whole story was then created. Now in the original story, it was about 27 different emotions that were supposed to be inside of Riley's head. Now 27 is a pretty big number, especially when it comes to characters. It would have made things a lot more difficult to kind of keep up and keep track of everybody. And so the team at Pixar did a lot of research. They talked to a lot of child psychologists and they told them, hey, really the main emotions that every child feels is these main 5. Does anybody know who else besides sadness is in this film? Anger, joy, disgust, and fear, and sadness, of course. Well, that's definitely the second film. We get introduced to 5 newer emotions. Technically 4, the 5th one's not supposed to show up unless she's I don't know, at weddings or graduation, stuff like that. Yes, we get introduced to 5 new emotions, and that's really more along the lines of that same 27 that were introduced, or they're supposed to be introduced in the first film. So we're kind of getting closer to that 27 number. Who knows, maybe the third inside out will get even closer. I'm gonna go ahead here, just connect her glasses right in the center with my horizontal line. And then I wanna give her a smile or a frown. All depends on what you really wanna do with your portrait of Sadness. Now, if you'd like to give her a smile, she'll kind of look nervous, but it'll make sense though for her character. I'm gonna go ahead here, give her this little sideways smile. Now this right here does help kind of still make her look a little bit awkward, a little sad, a little happy, like she's kind of confused. But if you want to make her look more sad, if you turn the ends of the smile up with these rainbow curves here, it kind of makes her look like she's about to start crying, which I feel like does also help make her more sad looking. But up to you really what you decide to do at this point with your Sadness. So that is really the last detail that you need to add to your drawing. Anything else at this point onwards is going to be extra credit and up to you. I do like to turn my pencil to the side and add a little bit of shading here, maybe some blush right across or underneath her eyes, and maybe even add a little bit of shading here to her hair since she's got that deep blue color to her hair. Really up to you though what you add at this point onwards, but find yourself a spot and sign your name nice and big and proud so we know whose portrait of Sadness this belongs to. All right, now most important question, did you guys have a good time? Yeah. Fabulous, and I'd love to see all of your drawings as well. So on the count of 3, we'll have a quick art show. And don't be afraid to take a look around. Everyone's got a unique style. All right, count of 3, ready, 1, 2, 3, Sadness, let's take a look.